Well, good morning. I'm here today with Tom Stickrath, Director of the Ohio Department of Public Safety, to talk about violence prevention and how to keep Ohioans safe. I'm joined by State Senator Frank Hoagland, State Representative Gail Manning. Appreciate both of them being here very much. Also, Director of Children's Initiatives Leanne Cornyn, Recovery Ohio Director Alicia Nelson, and Director Lori Chris of the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. 2 days after the Dayton shooting tragedy, I announced what we are now calling the Strong Ohio Initiative, a package of 17 proposals to reduce violence and increase mental health treatment. Today I'm here to add more detail to that plan, particularly in the area of greater resources for our schools. It is often school personnel who first recognize signs of trouble in a student. And we also know that too many times educators and innocent classmates have become victims. Unfortunately, Ohio has experienced tragic incidents of violence in schools, including the shooting at Chardon High School in 2012, Madison Junior Senior High School in Butler County in 2016, West Liberty Salem High School in 2017. We also know that sadly suicide is the second leading cause of death among our young people today. To make sure schools are safe places for children to learn and for teachers to work, I will be signing in a moment an executive order establishing the Ohio School Safety Center, an executive order that will establish the Ohio School Safety Center. This is a new division within Ohio Homeland Security at the Ohio Department of Public Safety. This will be a comprehensive statewide school safety office. Ohio School Safety Center will assist local schools and law enforcement in attempting to prevent, prepare for, and respond to threats and acts of violence, including self-harm, and they will do this through a holistic, solution-based approach. One of the things that I have learned over the years is that if you are serious about a problem, you have to have people who get up in the morning every day, and that's their job. That's their sole job. And so this school safety office, people who will be in it, and we will start tomorrow with 7 people, and it will grow, but we'll start with 7 people. Their job every single day will be to be a resource for our schools, for our administrators, for our teachers throughout the state of Ohio. Let me explain how this will work. We believe also, let me just mention, that this is up tomorrow. It starts tomorrow. But we do anticipate, with the help of the General Assembly, we're hoping that other features are going to be added. So this is a work in progress. Let me describe some of the things that they will be doing. First, intelligence analysts at the Ohio School Safety Center will use enhanced technology to scan social media and websites looking for threats made towards our schools. When a threat is identified, analysts will immediately conduct a threat analysis and then share that information quickly with local law enforcement and local school officials. Number 2, the center staff will help educate school staff, students, community members on using the Safer Ohio tip line, the Safer Ohio tip line, which is 844 Safer Ohio, a service that accepts anonymous calls and texts concerning school safety and threats of violence. Some schools already have their own tip line, and that is fine. But for those schools that want to use this tip line will be manned and our job will be to take those tips and move on them quickly by contacting local law enforcement, working with the local authorities. Let me talk about number 3. Center staff will consolidate state resources for school safety on the Safer Schools Ohio website. Again, that's saferschools.ohio.gov. They will also create this web page, which will always have a current listing of training that's going on in the state of Ohio. So this will be a place where anybody in education can go to at any time and see what training is upcoming in the state of Ohio that has to do with school safety. Number 4, center staff will review school safety plans, emergency management plans by schools, and provide technical support for schools that request that assistance. We have evolved with these plans, frankly, over the years. When I first looked at this early on, when I was the Attorney General, we had a number of schools that didn't have plans, a number of them not filed. This is a work in progress. We're now trying to take it to the next level by providing, again, this support. And we've come a long way, frankly. Number 5, center staff will establish a threat assessment team model policy and free training program for schools. What they'll really be doing here is to train school personnel in an evidence-based model that identifies and triages threats of violence against anybody in the school. Number 6, the center will host a summit at least annually at which safety experts and mental health professionals can share best practices, training, and resources with schools and community leaders. Number 7, I am establishing the Ohio School Safety Working Group. Those members will be announced in the next few days. The panel of experts in the fields of public safety, education, mental health, emergency management, and other expertise will meet quarterly at least to talk about security issues, trends, and local needs. And each year we are asking them at least once a year to write a report on the state of school safety in the state of Ohio. Let me thank Senator Hoagland, Representative Manning, for pursuing legislation to strengthen our school safety measures. As I said, what we are announcing today is the beginning. With the help of the legislature, we will continue to build on this in the future. We have a shared vision for safer schools, and I believe the Ohio School Safety Center will be a key tool in preventing violence in our schools. Certainly, schools should be a safe haven where children can learn without fear. I believe the Ohio School Safety Center is a step towards improving security for all our kids in school in the state of Ohio today. Let me now ask Tom Stickrath to say a few words about the center. The center will be housed, as we said, under Tom, and he's going to have a few comments for you.
Thank you, Governor. And several of our team members from Public Safety, from Homeland Security are here with me today. And Governor, I can't tell you how excited we are and how appreciative we are of the opportunity and the support you and our legislators have given toward creating this specialized center, the OSSC, focusing on school safety within Ohio Homeland Security. You asked me over the years many times who wakes up every day thinking about whatever topic it was when you were Attorney General and now Governor. And Governor, every day these staff will wake up thinking about school safety. But the center is more than just public safety and Homeland Security. It would not be possible without the strong existing relationships that we have with our colleagues, some of whom are here with me today. Our partners are so very important to the success of this initiative. Partners like the Ohio Department of Education, Department of Higher Education, Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, the State Fire Marshal's Office, Ohio Facilities Construction Commission, Ohio School Resource Officers Association, and others. But of also also, of course, our local partners, our sheriffs, our police, our fire, because really the center is a vehicle for local communities to strengthen their current capabilities and also provide law enforcement with additional tools to prevent and combat school violence. The center creates a platform for multiple partners to work collaboratively to protect our children in order to improve the day-to-day lives of Ohio youth and ensure that they have a safe and productive learning environment. Diverse federal, state, and local partners must use their combined expertise to address all aspects of student safety and provide a better learning environment for Ohio students. The center will bring all of these stakeholders to the table to provide the best possible programs and resources to our schools. Through the newly established Governor's Ohio School Safety Working Group, we will now be better able to understand the landscape of school safety, identify any needs or gaps, and use tailored approaches to address issues or enhance current programs. And Lori, Chris, I hope the Ohio School Safety Center will serve as a model for other states on how to incorporate mental health and public safety. For the first time, law enforcement, school administrators, educators, parents, students, and mental health professionals will have access to a plethora of resources in one centralized location. And through advanced technologies, the center will be able to expand current efforts to more effectively identify threats on social media. And finally, to echo Governor DeWine, I'd like to acknowledge the efforts of both Senator Hoagland and Representative Manning. Both of you have cast a spotlight on the important issue of school safety and recognizing the importance of expanding our resources for local communities. So thank you so much for your support. Governor, we look forward to opening the center. I think you said tomorrow, or maybe you said today.
Yesterday.
But we'll get it going. I can't do it yesterday, but it'll get going tomorrow. But we thank you for your support. Appreciate it.
Happy to respond to any questions.
Governor, where are the staff members coming from to staff this? Are you pulling them from the recently created intelligence unit that was tracking down the dark web stuff with the narcotics?
Yeah, thank you for the question. They will not come from that unit. That's a separate specialized, that Narcotics Intelligence Center, the ONIC, is a separate unit. We're bringing these staff from our existing Homeland Security resources, doing reprioritization within public safety. As Governor said, this is kind of an initial step. As we look for additional grant resources, we've got some grant requests in now, working, of course, with the legislature. As this initial step forward, we're bringing people from the Department of Public Safety that will have an expertise in this area.
Do you envision them going back to that former role, or is this something that you're going to draw down in that capacity?
No, this will continue. They'll stay. This will be their full time, as the governor said, every day, waking up thinking about school safety.
Look, school safety is, this issue is going to be with us, and so this is permanent. And as I said, we're going to continue to build. So this is, we want to have a framework. We want to have one place where this is focused. And again, we believe that our role is to help local government, to help local, in this case, our local schools. And so this is a way to help our local schools. That's how we look at this. There's a focus. There's one place where people can call. If they've got questions, there's one place where they can go. And this is the start. This is the beginning. 7 people up tomorrow morning, but it's going to expand beyond that.
Governor, you said that we've come a long way in terms of these school preparedness plans that you would oversee while you were in the Attorney General's office. Can you give us an idea of what your assessment is of how ready schools are today for something like this?
Well, first of all, I always hesitate to talk about specifics in regard to security, so I'm not going to do that. I think when you're dealing with the security of your children and the safety of your kids, it's always a work in progress. You can never be satisfied where you are. You're not as parents, you're not as teachers, you're not as administrators. And so if you look back where we were a decade ago, there was not a great deal of focus. School plans were done. In many cases haphazardly. Sometimes they weren't done at all. Schools really understand today what they face, and they do because we've seen tragedies. In Ohio, we've seen tragedies in other states. And so, school personnel are very, very focused on it today. So we've come a long way, but what I have to look at is, while each of our over 600 school districts and over 4,000 buildings or so, each one of them is doing what they think is best and what fits their community, and we don't want to get in the way of them doing that. But what we look at is how can we be value added, and we think that this center is value added as we move forward. We've got the Attorney General is doing some things. They'll come in, for example, and do assessments. Department of Education does other things. But, we wanted this to be kind of one place where people could go at least to make the call and say, hey, I've got this problem, or tell me if I have a problem. So.
Governor, we reported recently on an incident in Morrow County where a first grader obtained a loaded gun from a staff member who was authorized to carry a gun as part of the school's potential response team and pointed at another first grader. Do you foresee any changes or need for any changes in how we authorize teachers and staff members to carry weapons in school?
Well, I think this is always something that's open for discussion, and it's something I'm sure that the legislature and the governor's office, always is open to look at. What my position has been, going back to when I was Attorney General, is that these are generally local decisions, but I have not changed my mind. I don't think someone, if I was on the school board or I was a parent, I would follow the recommendations that came out of the Ohio Police Officers Training Academy when we asked them the specific question: if someone is in a school and is a teacher or administrator and they're going to be given a gun or they're allowed to carry a gun inside that school, what kind of training should they have? OPATA came back. That commission came back with some very specific courses that person should have. That has been my position. And that remains my position if I was making those decisions at a local school area. And that information, by the way, is still available. But once we can provide that information, and we can provide what OPATA gave to us when I was the Attorney General and said these are the courses that we think someone should have if they're going to carry a gun in a school.
But is that training required?
That training is not required under current law today. I don't know. It's something to look at. I don't know whether it should be required or not. But it is certainly best practices. It is certainly best practices. And again, I would say that if I was a school board member, I would follow what the professionals said, and that's what the professionals said, that these are the training courses that individual should have if they're going to carry a gun. Now, when you're talking about a school resource officer, that's a very different thing. You're talking about, in many cases, a sworn police officer. That's a very different situation. I think your question has to do with is whether someone who is not a sworn police officer, that's not what they do, and what kind of training should they have.
Is there a cost with putting the centers together?
Sure, everything costs money. I mean, sure, you got I'm not trying to be smart, but look, you got your main cost is personnel. Now, we've taken that from one other. These people were doing something else, but in the future, you certainly could have new hires, which would again be whatever the cost of that person is. Tom, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah. The governor's obviously correct with the personnel costs. We also had some additional funding in this biennium budget for some of the software and some of the tip line expansion and marketing. So there is some funding already appropriated through the General Assembly.
And let me just say, Tom mentioned the tip line. There's nothing more important than citizens can do in the state of Ohio than when they see a problem or what might be a problem, pick up the phone and call somebody. Call local law enforcement, call the school, call us, but call somebody. While I was not directly involved in the incidents that were reported yesterday or the day before in the media in Ohio about people being picked up, some of those came about because Ohio citizens were vigilant. So again, my plea to the people in the state of Ohio is, if you see a problem with someone that person might now or in the future become violent and kill people, please do something. Virtually every case, when we look back at, try to do an after-action report, so to speak, of what happened with an active shooter, if you go back in that person's history, there were signs almost in every case that person was giving that should have been picked up. And sometimes those signs were very early, even as early as grade school. And so that's what the citizens can do. That's what we have to do to protect each other. We have to have citizen involvement in this, and citizens have to be vigilant.
Governor, I've heard there are some complaints among some county sheriffs about funding for school resource officers being cut. Do you think more funding might be appropriate for school resource officers?
Well, I'm a big fan of school resource officers, and this is certainly something that, we could be looking at. In some communities, the school pays for them. In some other communities, they share the cost. In some other communities, the sheriff's office or the police department pays. But what you get is a trained officer. You get someone who can be very, very helpful in having their presence in the school as a deterrent. But the other thing that you get is a relationship that is built between that officer and the students, and a trust that can pay dividends immediately in information be reporting to that officer, but it also can pay dividends in the long run in that young person understanding that there's a person in their school that they have now bonded with and have a relationship with. So I'm a big fan of having school resource officers who are just part of that school. And I think most educators will say that there's some real advantages to doing that.
Do we have more of them?
I'm sorry?
Do we have more of them then?
Well, again, this is something that we certainly can look at. Up until now, it's been primarily a responsibility of the local community to make that decision. We have 2 legislators here. We have other members of the General Assembly. This may be something that we should be looking at.
Thank you, Governor. This question is for you, Senator Hoagland and Representative Manning. The budget just was passed with $675 million for student success and wellness. Do you see a situation where some of that money could be used to help with the center, to build it and to staff it and whatnot when you go beyond the original 7?
Oh, well, I want to take that first. I want to make sure I understand. That money is not going to be used for this center. That money was sent to and is being sent to every school district in the state of Ohio. And so that money is to be used by them to help in a number of areas. Basically, what we are calling this is really a supplemental help to these schools to do wraparound services and things that get in the way of the child actually being able to learn. So it was never our intent that that money be used for this purpose. Anybody
Our
else?
Speaker Householder is expressing the sentiment that it'll be very difficult to sell your red flag background checks to his caucus. What's your comment?
Well, this is a work in progress. Look, I mean, I think that what is, as people look at this, as members of the General Assembly look at it, but as also members of the public, I think there's a, when they see what we are proposing, when they actually look at the language, what they're going to find is that, for example, in what we're calling the personal protection orders, they're going to find that Ohio is poised, I hope and I believe, to do something that I don't think any other state has done. and that is to pass a personal protection order that will help protect people, that will get people who have a propensity to violence, are a danger to themselves or a danger to others, be able to separate them from guns, but do it in a constitutional way that everyone, when they look at it, can say, my rights have been protected. My rights have been protected. Because our friends in the Second Amendment community, who very rightly worry about the Second Amendment, their comments to me over the years have been, look, we know that there's some people out there that have guns that they scare me. They shouldn't have guns. They have a propensity to violence, or they're this or they're that. But what they've always said to me is, but look, I don't want a situation where my neighbor can get mad at me, call the police, and they come and get my guns. So what we have built into this is a procedure that respects the Second Amendment. I don't know any other state, now maybe there's some out there, but I'm not aware of any state that's doing it exactly as we propose to do it. So there is a natural learning curve, there's a natural understanding, and my job in the weeks ahead, and this administration's job, is to make that case to the people of Ohio, make that case to people who are concerned about the Second Amendment, make that case to the state legislature. So this is a work in progress. I understand a natural skepticism, but I think when people see the facts, they're going to look up and say, that works. We can do it. As I said, there's nothing that I have proposed that I don't believe this legislature can pass and will pass.
When will we see that language?
That language is LSC. Andy?
We met with them again earlier this week, provided them with some more language and just working through the process right now.
Yeah. I mean, as you recall, there's a lot of different parts of this, and so it's a big bill, a lot going on. But we, again, believe that these are all things that will work, all things that will help save lives, all things that are constitutional, and all things that can pass this legislature.
Governor, I have a question about children who are a threat to themselves and who've been a threat to others. For weeks, we've reported on a facility, Super Pomegranate, you've had Director Crisco visit. Recently during that visit, she declared to be clean, safe, and therapeutic. Since that time, we've received reports that there have been additional allegations of sexual abuse and violence, kids running away. I'm wondering how we can declare that place safe.
Appreciate the question. I'm going to let the director answer, but let me first say that this administration has been vigilant. We have taken your report seriously. We have had not only regular visits, but we've had a surprise visit, and the director can share with you what we have as a result of that.
So we do have the responsibility of making sure that there's access to care for all kids in Ohio who need services, and the challenges that many of these youth are dealing with are extreme and sometimes beyond what we can imagine as adults who maybe don't know a child with some of the behavioral and mental health and emotional disorders that they have. So our job is to make sure that there are safe places for these kids to go and that we have the capacity across the state to meet their needs. I did go out. The purpose of my visit was so that I could see for myself what the environment was like and to meet the team and the youth who were being cared for there. We did have a surprise visit, an unannounced visit, so that we could do a more thorough review with our expert reviewers and make sure that what I witnessed that day was what was happening in a much more detailed examination of the operations. Our reviewers came back and they endorsed what I saw. They found that therapeutic care was happening in a clean and safe environment. That did not mean that we didn't find some things that were of concern and that we're working with the provider on those concerns. There's opportunities for quality improvement. There's immediate actions that are underway. we're following up with them, and we will continue to do so.
Is it an overreach to consider it safe, given the reports of violence, sexual abuse that have happened repeatedly there?
So when we look at the reports, we have a responsibility to investigate them to the conclusion that there's evidence that support. So that's part of what we do. I do know that in 2018, over 300 youth were served there, and that there were only 5 incident reports that rose to the level of our investigation. So we do look at the nature of the report and the volume of the reports, and we continuously work with all of our provider organizations that we license and certify to make sure that they're meeting the quality standards and that we follow up with them to ensure continuous quality improvement to do so.
I don't want to take up too much time, but you consider it safe despite all that's happening?
Our reviews and the reviews of others have found that there's work to be done to improve quality, but there's nothing that would lead us to conclude anything beyond that at this point.
All right, thank you all very, very much. I'll sign the executive order. It's not pretty, but it's the job. Well, I think it's better. Okay.